Okay guys, welcome to tutorial 2 of basic HTML and how to make a website. In the last tutorial we looked at how to generate HTML and how to use it correctly and how to look at what some of the tags and elements mean. This time we're going to look at how to use them and add context into their meaning to make sure that you're always using the right tags in the right place. So to begin with, we're going to create a new folder called tutorial 2, and like before, within that folder we're going to create a new folder called CSS, and images. We're then going to right click on tutorial 2, create a new file and call it index.html, and just make sure that it's in the correct folder, so make sure that it is inside tutorial 2. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put in all the things that are appropriate for every website. So that's our doc type, which is HTML, the HTML elements, the head element, the title, which is going to be called The Goonies in celebration of their 30th anniversary. We're also then going to put some meta information Now, I've taken from the internet some text about the Goonies from the website IMDb, just because it's easier than having to write your own. So feel free to go online, go on Wiki, go on IMDb and grab some data or information that you need. So in the description I'm going to add some content, and then I'm going to add in, close the tag, and then I'm going to add in the body. Now all we're going to do is we're going to put a brief synopsis of the plot, and we're going to add in some information about each of the main cast members. On top of that, we're then going to look at how we can add in an image and how we can start to link to other websites. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is put in our main heading, which is going to be an H1, and that is just quite simply going to be the Goonies. We're then going to put our subheading, which will be the plot, and the browser will understand that the plot belongs to the heading The Goonies. So the browser will understand, and Google will understand, and all sorts of other devices will understand that this H2 is a subheading of this H1. I'm also going to put in our heading for the cast. Okay, and now it'll also understand that the cast is a subheading of the Goonies, not the plot, because it's the same level of hierarchy. So if we press save and we click our lightning bolt to preview it in the browser, if we wait a few seconds, you can see that we've got our heading and our two subheadings. So if I highlight them here, you can see heading, subheading 1, subheading 2. For the plot, again, I've taken some information off the IMDb website. So I've taken 3 paragraphs and I've pasted them in. But notice, because they're not in P tags, in the preview it's just one big block of text. So that's why it's really important to put in the appropriate tags. If we don't, the browser ignores all white space. I can put as many enter spaces as I want, and notice that it makes no impact on the browser whatsoever. So it's really important to use those tags correctly. So if we put in each P tag that's required. Now I'm using the tab key to space the P tags in, so we know that they belong to the body. So they are children of the body. The body is a parent of the paragraph, and these H1, H2 and the P's are siblings of each other. And that's how we understand the hierarchy of a website or a web page. Okay, so as you can see, we've now got 3 paragraphs. We've got our plot heading done. The next thing we're going to do is the cast. Now if you cast your mind back to tutorial 1, you remember we used a special kind of list called a definition list, and that's what I'm going to use here. So as you can see, once I've copied and pasted in the data, we've got Sean Astin, Josh Brolin and Corey Feldman, 3 of the main characters in the Goonies. We're going to define or describe Sean Astin, we're going to describe Josh Brolin, and we're going to describe Corey Feldman. So while you could use H3 and make this a paragraph, H3, make this paragraph, H3, make this paragraph, because we're describing these, I feel that a definition list is more appropriate. Okay, it will also help with your searchability, because you will know that in Google you are describing a term. So sometimes when you see a definition come up when you search for a word in Google, that can be derived from a definition in a definition list on a reliable website. So we're going to put in DL, and then we'll put its pair at the bottom so I don't forget later on. We're then going to put in our DT, and then put its pair, and we are then going to put in our DD, and again its pair. And all we're going to do is repeat that for each cast member. Now you notice I've put space around these, and I've put Corey Feldman, Josh Brolin and Sean Astin on a new line. It really doesn't matter how you lay it out. I've just done that to make a lot of white space, so it's very easy for us to read back the code and make it useful. So if we now view this in the browser, you'll be able to see that we have the cast, we have Sean Astin, and we have his description. We have Josh Brolin and his description, Corey Feldman and his description. What we can do to make sure that the formatting of this text matches the formatting of this text is we can put these descriptions in paragraphs, because they are paragraphs. Notice how now the spacing above the paragraphs it now matches the paragraphs above because we've used the same tags. So if we save that, our next job is to add an image, because at the moment, even though we're not styled it, it still looks pretty boring, and it would help from an image to enhance the content. So if we go to Google, I'm going to grab any old image. So if we go to The Goonies and image search, and make sure you use a small image, okay, because it will show on the web page at the size it actually is. So if we choose a medium one, and that one looks good enough to me. So if we view the image, we copy it. Actually no, instead we'll save it. And instead of saving it onto My Documents, we're going to go straight to Tutorials, Tutorial 2, our Images folder, and we're just going to call it The Goonies. Okay, notice how it's all lowercase. Instead of a space, I've put a hyphen, and that ensures that the file name is readable by search engines and it's also readable by humans. If we then save it, we can see in my images folder we now have the goonies.jpg. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my image in between the first two paragraphs. Now in the past, every element we've used except for the doc type and the meta information has come as a pair. The image is one of the exceptions to that rule. The image doesn't have a pair. You start with the img tag. We then want to put the source, so we put the src of the image we want. Well, that will be the images folder, and then we want the file name. Well, luckily for us, Bracket searches that images folder and finds the goonies.jpg. We can drop that in. Along with every image that you use, well, in the main, you also put an alt attribute, and an alt attribute is short for alternative text, and that is in case the image doesn't load or someone using accessible technologies needs to see what the image contains, we can put a brief description of the image in there. But the key is make sure it's brief. So if I put in the Goonies gang, then close the element. If we save it, we'll go back to our page, and we can see that the image is now dropped in. Finally, for this tutorial, we're going to look at how to add in links. Links are really simple to add in. What we're going to do is, for some of the films mentioned throughout the cast, we're going to link to their IMDb profile. So let's use, for Sean Astin, the film Rudy. So we want someone, when they click the word Rudy, to take them to the IMDb web page about that film. So firstly, I've found the link already, but you can again search for it on Google. And we go to the start of what we want to make the link. We use an A tag. We then put href, and href is where we put the URL, but we'll come to that in a minute. We then close the A tag, and then if we use the word Rudy at the other side of it, we close our A tag, and as you can see, we've got a start and an end. And in our preview, the word has turned into a link, so it's become underlined, and it's purple because I've already visited it. Then if I drop in the URL to Rudy in there and save it, as you can see, it's now become a link, and we will test that shortly. For Josh Brolin, one of my favourite films we'll link to, No Country for Old Men, and instead of typing it again, we'll copy it from here, go before the note in No Country for Old Men and paste it, and we'll close down the A tag. I'll then take the URL for No Country for Old Men and drop that in. And finally, for Corey Feldman, again another one of my favourite movies, is The Burbs. And we will replace the URL with the correct one. So if we save that and try it in the browser, let's try our Rudy link, and it takes us to the appropriate web page. But what it does is it takes us away from the website that we were just on. Well, if you've made a website, you don't want to move people away from it. So what we'll do is we'll go back, we'll just switch live preview back on. Okay, and we'll make some amendments. So if you're linking to pages that are inside your own website, then that's fine, leave it like this. But because we're linking away, we want to create a new tab. So to do that, we use the target attribute. So we put target underscore blank, and that will then open the Rudy link in a new window. And then we will do the same again. And save it. If we then try it now, you'll see it's opened a new tab and we've gone to a new web page. So again, this is nice and simple, quick tutorial. If you've not watched number 1, I recommend you watch that first, then try the tasks in this, and then have a go at creating your own web page about your favourite movie. In tutorial 3, we'll start to look at how to use tables correctly on web pages before we progress on to CSS styling.